Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ramadhani Rozikin Hasya, and today I'll be analyzing a poem, Autumn Song by W.H. Auden. Let's begin, shall we? So, before I analyze the stuff, we need to read the poem first. So, the poem is Autumn Song by W.H. Auden, goes something like this. Now, the leaves are falling fast. Nurse flower will not last. Nurse their grapes are gone, but the prams go rolling on. Whispering neighbor left and right, don't ask from hour through the light. Able hand are forced to freeze, the relic on lonely knees. Close behind us on our track, that in hundred cry alack. Arms raised stiffly to reprove in false attitudes of love. Scrawny through a plundered wood, trolls run scolding for their food. All in nightingale are dumb, and the angel will not come. Clear, unscalable, ahead, rise the mountain of instead, from whose cold cascading streams none may dream except in dreams. Let's go to the analytic one, shall we? So first we'll have the context of the poem that I just read before. So the context of the poem is talk about between the passage of time itself and the inevitable uh, definitive death, kinda. So the poet W.H. Auden, he is a 20th century English poet, British American English poet, I'm pretty sure. And this poet, Autumn Song, was first published around 1936, and the main focus of the poem, like I said before, it showed the inevitable cycle of life and death through dark and sad image of autumn. It reflects loneliness, decay, and of course the passage of time. Next slide. So, what is the main idea of this poem? So, according to what I wrote here, so the poem shows how life is short and always changing, and through the season of autumn, Auden, the author, tried to express sadness, death, and the fading of beauty itself, the beauty. Okay, so he used autumn as a symbol of the end of life, as in, yeah, the end of life, which remind us that everything in nature and in human life, of course, will eventually fade and die. So the tensions of life and death and the impacts of autumn season are the major themes of the poem Autumn Songs. So that it shows the bleak, dark, and heart-wrenching realities one witness on the arrival of autumn. And lastly, it also compares how human beings and other creatures go through the same phase. Going to the next slide. So, what is the background story of this poem? Well, according to this, although W.H. Auden never directly explained why he wrote the poem Autumn Songs, well, the poem is widely understood or interpreted as a reflection of his view on life's decline and the passing of time. I repeated that 3 times. So, Auden used the season of autumn as a symbol of decay, loneliness, and death. The dark and melancholic tone of the poem represents the inevitable fading of beauty and warmth in human life. So Auden wrote this poem during a period when he often explored themes of human isolation and the fragility of existence itself. So therefore, the autumn song can be seen as his way of expressing how all things in life, like how they change seasons, must eventually come to an end. Next slide. So autumn song. Wait, sorry. So what is the structure and form of this poem? Well, we're gonna begin it. So autumn song by W.H. Auden is a five stanza poem that is separated into sets of four lines, known as quatrains, since it's four line, of course, quadruple. Each of these quatrain, if I pronounce it correctly, follow a simple rhyme scheme of A B B, C, C, D, D, and so on, changing and sound as the poet saw fit. Auden also make use of half or slide rhymes. So here is an example. Well, this is the second stanza, Mister, but I'm just gonna equal it to AA, even though it's supposed to be BB and stuff like that. Oh no, CC, sorry. So, whispering neighbors left and right, don't ask from out through the light. Able hand or forces to breeze, derelict on lonely knees. Close behind us on our track, dead in hundreds sky lag. Arm raised stiffly to reprove in false attitude of love. So this kind of rhyme is seen through the repetition of assonance or consonants, which I will explain in the next slide. So it is reused within one line or multiple line of verse. For example, the use and reuse of the T sound in the ending of lines 1 and 2 of the first and second stanza. Also, there is another good sample for this is for the time of assonance in the third stanza with reproof and attitude like before. For example, the lip are going fast, the flower will not last. That's one of the examples. So next slide, it will be textual analysis. W.J. Auden's Autumn Song is a contemplative lyric that used the imagery of the autumn season to explore themes of transience, decay, and human vulnerability. In simple terms, like I said before, the autumn song uses lyric that mimics the season, the autumn season. So the exploration is much more wider, I suppose. So the symbolism of the saying of bud from go rolling on symbolize the circle of life, which keeps knowing no matter what happens to the individual. Like the text say, but the prams go rolling on. So the visualization phrase like able hand a frozen freeze gives an impression of coldness, halfness, and deep sorrow. Here's the text. And of course, there's the repetitions. The word nurse is repeated to press the point of departure itself. So in the poem it says, "Nurse's flower will not last. Nurses to the graves are gone." It's a repetition to press, to put a stress, to put a press on the point of departure. Next slide. So, the, what is the sound, acoustic, and rhythm of the poem? Well, below is the device used by W.H. Auden for sound, acoustic, and rhythm. First is alliteration, the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of nearby words, such as flying fast, which is F sound repeated, and there's also Abelhan, a false freeze, F recurring, and the third one from rolling air sound echoed. I'll skip the Scotty Wood since it's same, it's a sound. Second will be assonance. It is the repetition of sounds within line itself. So scrawny through a plundered wood, the U in true plundered and wood. Not the other man. Skip it. Rolling on the O Powell sound. And then last one, enable scalable ahead and instead is a repeated long EE or E or four tones. Pretty sure it's in 5 stanza or no, the last stanza. So these four echoes help unify the line and create harmony or dissonance depending on said context. Next slide. Okay, the next slide will be consonants, the third one. So the repetition of consonant in sounds in proximity, it is not necessarily at the start of the poem, is, for example, don't ask from or through the like T and R are repeated, and there's also hand are forced to freeze, R as T is repeated also, and there's also that in 100 cry alike D and K sounds, it is yeah, sounds. So and the last one will be called cascading stream, D and S repeated. And the fourth one will be internal rhyme, or I should say partial rhyme. While the poem is more strongly built on end rhyme, there are moments of internal rhyme or partial rhyme. For example, Scrawny Wood has a kind of half rhyme or echo in the vowel, which plus a constant pattern inside of it, and also rise the mountain of instead, or from whose called cascading stream, which instead on steam based on those two lines, or yeah, two lines to say, are not perfect, but the S and D sounds echo which one in the other. Next slide. And the fifth one is end-rhyme and rhyme scheme. The poem is organized in quatrains or four-line stanza with a consistent A-A-B-B rhyme scheme in each stanza. For example, the first stanza, fast or last, A, gone, on, B, and the second stanza is right the like, A, freeze and knees, B. It is in end the line, of course. And so on to the poem, the end rhyme gives a musical regularity and sense of closure to each stanza, between the stanza, the one in each stanza. Okay. So the sixth one will be enjambment and caesura. Enjambment, many lines do not pause neatly at the line break, but continue into the next line, e.g., whispering neighbors left and right downs us from out through the light, and that's an example. So the and caesura, it is a pause within a line, so it is less obviously marked, but can occur naturally via punctuations or implied speech. For example, Scrawny through a plundered wood, trolls run scolding for their food. The commas inside those two lines gives a slight pause before continuing to the next line, and these features affect phasing, in which enjambment speed things up and internal breaks slow or modulate the pace, which is caesura. Going on to the next slide. So the second one would be rhythm and matter. uh, So the poem doesn't rigidly adhere to a single metrical foot like iambic pentameter throughout, but it does show a strong rhythmic quality and regular syllabic balance. So many lines in the poem approximate iambic pentameter for feet of alternating unstressed and stresses or similar patterns, but through with variations and substitution, often in the opening foot or the middle of the poem. So, for example, now the leaves are falling fast is a scansion or raw translation about the stress and stress. Now the leaves are falling fast. We can see four main beats, which is leaves, fall, fast, and what is it? Where is it? Fall and other shifts likely, like clear, unscalable, ahead, rise the mountain of instead. These lines are more longer and irregular in terms of rhythm. And next one will be language feature. So first, in the language feature of the poem Autumn Song, we have personifications. What is personification? So in personification, it gives human emotion and action to nature in the poem, of course. So for example, now the leaves are falling fast. The leaves are described as if they are alive and dying like people. So the leaves equal people in this poem. And what effects does it have? So the effect is it reflects how the of life, inevitable decay of life, also as I die, and it connects to human mortality, which nature's cycle. So in the second one, we have, of course, dictions, a word choice. So the poem uses simple but emotional and somber word. For example, death in hundred cry aloud. So words like death and cry emphasize sorrow and despair. and effect built a melancholic and reflective tone, showing the sadness of loss and change. Now the lips of hunting fast and dead in haunted cry alas. Next slide. Of course, we have the last from the language feature, which is tone and mood. So the tone of the poem are sad, reflective, and resigned. For example, the line "and the angel will not come" show hopelessness and the acceptance of fate, while the moods are quite sorrow and acceptance of change, such as a feeling of melancholy and fading hope. Next slide. And of course, we have core message at the last. What is the core message of this poem? Well, the poem captures the quiet sadness that comes with the passing of time. As autumn arrives, warm fades, the air grew colder, and everything, once full of lives, began to fall silent. The world seemed to lose its color, and the heart felt the weight of change and loneliness. It's as if the joy of summer has slipped away, leaving only the echo of one of what once was. Yet beneath the sadness there is still a faint sense of hope, gentle but alive, I suppose. So life continues even when it feels empty, and the soul still dreams of light beyond the fading season of autumn. At last, the poem reminds us that though time brings loss and decays, it also carries the quiet promise of renewal, hidden like a seed waiting beneath fallen leaves, like how the season change and it'll start again, all over again. Next slide. Thank you for listening to my analysis of the autumn poem by W.H.A. Auden. Ozzy out.